Welcome back to the King's Law podcast. This is I think episode 4, or I know episode 4. The topic of this discussion is the law versus Christianity. Like I said in previous episodes, there's a difference between serving God and his laws and your religion, right? Every religion is a body that's formed and organized by human beings, and they all have their own rules that are outside of the law, which is against the law. If you go and look at www.thekingslaw.com, and you don't have to take my word for it. Go and look at the verse that tells you to follow all the law, nothing more and nothing less, and go look it up in the Bible or your Torah, and it's in there, right? So anything that you have outside of that is wrong. Whether it be human made or wherever you think it came from, is wrong, and you're putting that burden on yourself. So this discussion is about Christianity versus the law, right? And why Christianity itself falls outside of the law. Now, when I talk about Christianity, I know Christianity references Jesus, right? Who was a prophet, right? Who did fulfill a prophecy, right? But Christianity did not exist in the time of Jesus. Jesus was a Jew, an Israelite, right? The son of Jacob, which are two separate things. He did follow the law, and he was by lineage a descendant of Jacob, right? And he didn't know anything about Christianity. And a lot of his disciples didn't know anything about Christianity either, right? They did preach and they did talk about their journey, and they preached the law. Most people don't know the law, so they don't know that they were preaching the law, but they were preaching the law. That's it. When a lot of people talk about their diet and things like that, they reference Paul, and they say, well, Paul said you can eat anything you want, as if Paul is their God. But Paul was just preaching the law. The law does give you a diet, and it tells you what to eat and what not to eat, and it tells you what can be sacrificed and what cannot be sacrificed. But it also tells you, if you're not in a tabernacle, if you're not in your people's holy place of sacrifice, then you can eat whatever you want, which is what Paul was saying, because he was not in Israel. He was not in a tabernacle. He was telling people you can eat whatever you want because they didn't know the law, right? And I'm telling you that right now, just to reiterate, because most people don't know the law. Maybe you don't know the law, right? Paul was saying you can eat whatever you want because you wasn't in a tabernacle, and most likely neither are you. So yes, you can eat whatever you want. You can eat pork. You can eat whatever you want. I'm not advising that you eat a lot of that stuff because it's unhealthy. So you make your own choices. It's not against the law to do it because you're not in a tabernacle. Now, if you were to have a family and then choose a priest family in your family and then build a tabernacle, if you got to that point and you had that tabernacle, no, you cannot sacrifice pork in that tabernacle, and no, you cannot eat pork in that tabernacle based on the law. But if you're outside of there, then it's fine, right? But most people don't know that. Most people just think Paul made a new rule, which makes no sense, right? Paul was preaching the law. He wasn't making any new rules or anything like that. But most people don't know that because they don't know the law. But let's go back to the topic, talking about Christianity. Christianity, modern day Christianity, not the Christianity that, like I just said, right? Christianity didn't exist back then. So modern day Christianity is outside of law. Most Christians these days, they say Jesus fulfilled the law, therefore we do not have to follow the law, which makes no sense. It literally makes no sense. If a man came to you, whether it be Jesus or someone after Jesus, and preached the law and told you what you were doing wrong and to go forth and sin no more, how does it make sense that you can just do whatever you want? If he told you go forth and sin no more, if you don't have to follow the law, there's no such thing as sin. So why would he tell you to sin no more? It doesn't make any sense, and I think we got to get rid of the mind state that you're trapped inside of the law, and that will let people realize that the law is for them, right? Because most people have a mind state of, hey, my life is my life. I want to live it to the fullest. I don't need something holding me down, some old rules holding me down. But if you flip it and look at it as you freeing yourself, because I have myself, right, been, a Christian at one point in time, right? And my life was limited in a lot of ways, but you don't know because you go through somewhat of a mental lobotomy when you live life outside the law, right? When you don't search and look for God's direction, you as a human being are dimmed down, right? You won't be able to see what you would see if you was one with God in the universe that he created, and you won't be able to do what you could do if you were one with God in the universe that he created. So in your mind, you might be thinking you're living a fulfilling life, right? When you say, I'm going to eat as many pig feet and hog maws as I want. Yeah, I'm going to sleep with somebody's wife if I want to. Yeah, I'm going to go rob and steal if I want to. Yeah, I can finesse and tell a lie if I want to. Nobody's getting hurt. Yeah, I can do X, Y, and Z if I want to, right? You might think that you are magnifying your life and making it better. But what you don't know is the flip side of that, right? If you don't do that and you do decide to adhere to the law, you are freeing yourself. You will become financially free. You won't have the burden of worrying about bills that you can't pay, right? If you don't sleep with that man's wife, you will become free in the sense that I will have the power to get a woman that is mine, right? I will be a good man and people will recognize that and they will give me their daughter, and I won't have to resort to thinking about sleeping with somebody else's wife because I'll have my own woman, right? Because people will know me as a good man, right? But people don't think of those flip sides and they only think of what they want in the moment, which is, if you think about it, a cheap way of thinking. That's why if you choose this modern day Christianity where you don't follow the law, if you go to the churches, most people are living a cheap lifestyle. I mean, just go to the church and look, especially in inner cities. Go to the church and look. Most people are in painful situations and they're just sitting there slaves of the church. You know what I'm saying? And that's no way to live. That's not free, right? And then what they tell you because you're living this horrible existence is, don't worry about it. Your prize is in heaven after you die. But no, that's not what God guaranteed to you. God guaranteed to you everlasting life if you follow the law. God guaranteed to you that you will be free and that you will control and have dominion over the earth if you are one with his universe and follow his law, right? This earth. We wasn't talking about another one. So that other stuff, that's what your church told you. So you could be sick and whatever. And they tell you do whatever you want. You go do whatever you want. And while you're sitting there dying of diabetes, you're content with that because you think when you die, your prize is in heaven. But no, your prize is not in heaven. If you don't follow the law, my friends, you are headed for death. And I mean death in the worst way, right? Like if you don't know the law, you don't teach it to your children and your children never find it, you die, right? Then if you do or do not have a son, your son has a mental lobotomy and then he dies. And then you have no more sons, which means you are now wiped off the face of the earth, your name, your lineage, right? From the beginning of time until now. You have been alive. There has been your father, and your father has had sons, and then your father's father's father, and they have all had sons in his name. And here exists you. And because you have fallen so out of line with the universe, you have now died maybe at a young age or maybe in poverty to where your son doesn't respect you, right? And he doesn't know anything because you never taught him anything worth knowing. So he's out here confused and might do something crazy, and then he dies with no sons. And now you are really dead because you have been wiped off the face of the earth. There is no more you anymore, right? And that's what that consists of. That's death. There's the physical death, which involves you dying. And if you have a survivor, right, that has to be one of your sons, right, who has your last name and who has the potential to procreate and continue your family and your name. If your son dies and he's so confused that he doesn't know to procreate and continue your family and your lifeline, you are dead. And that's the first commandment in the Bible, right? The first commandments in the Bible are do good, produce good. Matter of fact, let me not even ad lib. I could just look right here at the King's Law of the book, right? I could just look at it. It says do good, produce good. And the second thing says have children. So if you following the law, you're supposed to have children. But if your son not following the law, he doesn't know that. And if you look around in modern day America and in the world in general, a lot of people are selfish. They don't even know to have children. They'll get, a little bit of money and he'll have his nice little job and he'll get his wife that he thinks, or he might be gay, right? And he says, well, I don't need to have kids. That in itself is a decision out of law, and a very selfish one, because you're choosing at that point in time to end your family. If you're the only son, you're choosing to end your family. After all that work and all those men before you had another generation and another generation to create you. Now you have this life that you have been given the platform to build by your parents, whether you want to admit it or not, or by the government that you live in. If you don't have any parents, you have been afforded your lifestyle by someone, right? You didn't create yourself, and then you choose to not forward your life, right? It's the most selfish decision that you can make. And that right there is what happens when you fall outside the law, right? Your father tell you a whole bunch of nonsense, doesn't make any sense. Son doesn't know right from wrong. So when he gets of age, he says, well, I should just live life for me. I just want to travel. Me and my wife, or me and my husband, right? If he's swinging that way, we just want to travel and do whatever we want to do, right? And he dies, and that's the end of your family. That's what happens when you live life outside the law. So for all you people preaching that and forwarding that message, please stop. They ain't making any sense. They say, oh, because you'll ask these people, and I guarantee, if you're one of these people, ask yourself, and if you know these people, ask these people, okay, so what do you have to do? Because, I mean, if you go out and murder somebody, if I kill somebody right now in front of you, you'll say I'm wrong. So what's right and what's wrong? And they'll tell you 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you follow the 10 commandments. That's all you have to do. And I say, well, the 10 commandments is from the Old Testament. They'll say, yeah. And I say, okay, well, there's a bunch of other commandments in the Old Testament too. What makes you choose those 10 in particular? And they'll say, that's all you need. And I said, who? You just telling me that's all I need? And they'll tell you yes. And I said, and then ask them, who are you to say that's all you need? There's no answer for that. There is an answer for that, right? But there's no other answer aside from they think they're God. They make their own rules. They are God. This is their universe, and they will die because it's not. Yeah, you don't own the universe. This is not your universe. Whether you want to believe that or not, right? Even if you do believe this is your universe, you know murder is wrong outside of you wanting to do it or not. And you know there will be repercussions for those actions. That's why people don't do it unless there were extreme circumstances. And they got either one, extremely emotional, or either two, they have a problem so big they feel like they have to remove the person from the equation, right? People refrain from doing it. People don't live life like Grand Theft Auto and just go outside and start murdering people because they know it's wrong. And that right there is an admission of this is not my universe. What is wrong and what is right is outside of my control. That's an admission of it. But then people go so far as they try to renege on that and say, well, I choose what's right and wrong. You only have to follow the 10 commandments. And that doesn't make any sense. You should stay away from that person because that person has denounced God and they have claimed that they are God at that point in time because they are making their own rules and regulations to a universe that they did not create and do not own. Period. Doesn't make any sense. If you ask half, I'm telling you, I asked all the ones that I know. If you ask these Christians, these hardcore Christians, and they try to make sense out of their do as you will lifestyle and logic, that's what they'll tell you. The 10 commandments is all you need to do. You say, well, why did you choose that set of rules out of all the rules in this book? And one of the rules in this book is to follow all the rules in this book. So what made you disregard that and choose these? It's just because that's what their church told them and that's what they wanted to do. That's what they're willing to listen to. Right? And at that point, you have to ask, who gave them the authority to do that? Because they claim also in these Christian churches that Jesus freed you from the law and that you don't have to follow the law anymore. That's what they tell you. But at the same time, they tell you follow the 10 commandments. That doesn't make any sense. That does not make sense at all. You tell me I don't have to follow any law. I'm free from law. Then I ask you, okay, well, can I go outside and just kill somebody and just ask for forgiveness? Then they said, well, you got to follow the 10 commandments. I said, well, that's in the Old Testament too. What made these rules special? They can't tell you because they don't make any sense. These people are bad children who don't want to follow the rules, but they want to remain safe at the same time. And if they do something wrong, they just want to ask for forgiveness, which is fine, right? Under law, you are entitled to forgiveness. right? You are entitled to forgiveness. You are entitled to cry out for God for forgiveness. You are entitled to pay for your sins, right? And sacrifice for your sins, whether that be an animal sacrifice or you spending money, right? You are entitled to, but you have to give something up, right? And you have to admit your wrongdoing in front of people, right? It's not just, oh, go ask, Jesus. And that's another thing that's wrong with Christianity. The Bible tells you, the laws and the commandments tell you, don't have any gods before me. Don't pray to anything aside from me. Don't bow and pray to anything, anyone or anything aside from me, right? But Christians, they have it in their mind. They try to tell you this all the time outside of church. They don't pray to Jesus. But if you go to a Christian church, they definitely in there, and the pastor is telling them, pray to Jesus. Now, that fundamentally doesn't make any sense, because where are you getting that from? If you go and read the New Testament, Jesus never even told you to pray to Jesus. Jesus said, pray to God in this way. And he said, whatever you ask for, you will receive it in my name. He didn't even say, in the name of such and such, amen. He didn't even tell you to say that. He didn't even tell you to pray to him. So where are you getting to pray to Jesus from? You made that up, and your church made that up. There's nothing else aside. You can't say anything else from that, because there's nowhere in the Bible where it tells you to pray to anyone else, New Testament or Old Testament. They just made that up. And if I'm wrong, please email me, dturner2341@gmail.com. Show me, you Bible thumping people who claim you read the Bible. Show me where it says that at. Go pray to Jesus. It don't say that in there. You can never tell me it does. Right? And that's where you go wrong, right? That's where most people are executing themselves in the Christian religion. You're praying to something outside of it. And even if they say Jesus is God in the flesh. First off, that doesn't make any sense. They say that Jesus is the only son of God. We're all sons of God. We're all sons and daughters of God. And it says that in the New Testament. It says we are all co-inheritors in the kingdom of heaven, brothers and sisters, right? So when you look at the scripture, or you look at the New Testament, and it says Jesus was God's only begotten son, right? That does not mean Jesus was God's only son. You all have to read words and go into the dictionary and make sure you break down what you're reading. Only begotten son means only son he claimed for himself. Meaning Jesus died, right? He rose after 3 days, and he didn't die again. After that, he was ascended into heaven alive. He did not die on earth. God claimed him for himself. So out of all these people who were on the earth at that time, Jesus was God's only begotten son. There were other people who were claimed before Jesus. I think one of them was Enoch, or I forget. I think it was like Moses' grandfather, something. I can't remember his name right now. You can go look it up for himself. But he was claimed by God, and then one of the prophets was claimed by God and brought up in like a chariot of fire or whatever, right? And that's what you mean. That's what's meant when it says only begotten son. Son claimed for himself, right? He did not return to the earth and turn to dust. And his energy was not transferred to somebody else at that time, right? He was reclaimed by God. He never died. He was brought up to heaven, claimed, begotten by God. That's what that means. That doesn't mean he was his only son. You are a son of God too, and you have the duty to fulfill the law too. But most people get that misconstrued, right? So one, you have praying to different entities, and then two, you have not following the law. And we can go back and look in the law about, things that negate you not following the law. One, it says in there, you can go to www.thekingslaw.com and look for yourself, type in law or something. But there's a bunch of laws in there that say don't dare live life outside of law. And there's a bunch of laws that say don't do anything more than the law, don't do anything less. Like don't have any rules incorporated into your life more than the law, and don't have any rules incorporated into your life less than the law, right? That includes your routines and other people's how you have to live life to get ahead. You don't have to do that. That's you making somebody else your idol and God. Right. But you don't have to do anything but live inside the law, and what you want for your life, the hopes and dreams, they will all come true. God is working on them and making them come true. It might not happen the way you think it's going to happen. It might not happen in a straight line. You might have to take some losses to gain the toughness to go back up and get what you want, but it's happening. God is making it happen. And when you living right, you know everything is happening for my benefit. If you're not, you don't know that, and then you want to blame everybody else, right? I mean, white people want to blame black people for everything. Black people want to blame white people for everything. Jewish people want to say everybody hates them. Everybody wants to blame their problems on somebody else, but themselves. But if you look at your life, you're completely in control of your reality, and what you and how you prosper on this earth is based on you being inside the law. So when something is going very, very wrong and you see your life going in a different direction, one, you need to remain calm. If you know you're living a good life, you just don't understand the route that you're taking because you're not the driver, right? God is the driver who's taking you to your final destination. You might make a right turn where you thought you needed to make a left. That doesn't mean you need to panic and jump out the car. If you jump out the car, that means you never was with God anyway, right? If you had full trust in your Father and you knew he was taking you to a good place, most of the time better than what you could even imagine. If you took a right and it looked kind of, iffy, like he might not know where he's going and you might be off track, you wouldn't just jump out the car. You would say, look, man, first off, I have goals. I have these things, but in my heart of hearts, I really don't know how to get there. So this might just be part of getting there, right? You would admit that to yourself if you was humble and you knew you didn't have control over this universe and you knew that God was in control of your life. But if you don't, you jump out the car and you say you got to go find something else. Oh, I'm a Christian. I got to be Muslim now. Oh, I'm a Muslim. I got to be Christian now. Oh, I'm a God-fearing person. Oh, I got to be atheist now. Because look at these people over here on this side of the world. They pray to statues and, they seem to have more than you don't know. You don't know that person's life. That country may be poor. That country may have been bombed by America half a century ago. It might be working for America. They all slaves. You don't know, but you're going to jump ship claiming that God ain't do it for you. No, it ain't God didn't do it for you. God, you didn't do it for yourself. So that's one thing you got to remember is to take accountability. And you cannot take accountability for anything if you don't have to do anything. You being accountable for your life and not having any law to follow to be in tune with this universe don't make any sense. If you have no rules, then you're not accountable for anything, so you can never be blamed for anything. So why in the Christian religion is there a heaven and a hell? If there's no rules and you can do whatever you want and you're not accountable, then there should be no heaven and no hell, because God can't judge you because you're not blamed for anything. But they talk about a heaven. You see, nothing these two people talk about in their group outside of God makes sense. It all doesn't make sense because it all is outside of law and is wrong. So you need to come back to law, and you all need to realize Jesus was preaching the law and telling you to follow the law. And if you claim you're a follower of Jesus and you don't follow the law, that is a lie as well. Doesn't make any sense. You can't, if somebody is and it says that in the New Testament is a living word, the embodiment of the word, right? Which then, and it says God was the word. Then the word became flesh, meaning that Jesus became one with the word, one with God, one with the universe, right? That doesn't mean he is God. Nobody is God. You got to think about that. If you go back to the first episode, right, we talk about God and we talk about God being the force that moves everything in this universe, created everything in this universe. No one man could be God. If God was only encompassed in this one man, then you would not have a life. God is in you. That's the air coming in and out of your lungs. God is he is the force that moves everything on this planet. Nothing moves without him making it happen. Nothing stops. So to say one is disrespectful, that limits God to one human being. He came down. No, he is present in flesh 1 billion times over on this planet in every human being. The breath that gives you life is God. So it wasn't just, if you say that, no, it doesn't make any sense. God is in the flesh 7 or 8 billion times on this earth, right? But those people who have that flesh and that consciousness that is filled with the Spirit of God, they choose to use it in evil ways, and they fall away from God, and they are not one with the word, one with God. So Jesus was a man who became perfect over time through tribulations, who became one with God, meaning one with his law, one with his universe, right? But that does not make a man God. No one entity can be God. God created everything. God is something we cannot comprehend, right? Because you can't do this yourself. If you could comprehend God, make life. If any scientist on this planet can comprehend and understand God and be God, let him make life. He can't do it. He can't do it unless he's one with God, unless he is one with the vibration of God and doing God's will. Can't do it. Which makes him being God not make sense at all. If you are God, you should be able to control and do whatever you want. But if God is a force that created everything, you have to be one and in tune with that law, the law of the universe, to make your will, to enforce your will on this earth. If you have to be in tune with another entity, that means that you are not God. You are in tune with another entity, and you are making that entity's will come true because you're in tune with it, right? That doesn't make you God. That makes you a vessel, an in tune vessel, right? So that doesn't make any sense. And if we go to law itself, right, we talked about all the laws that say you have to follow all the law, no more, no less. But if you go, I think it's in Deuteronomy, I think it's 475 in the book, law number 475. It says if there's a prophet that has a dream, and the dream, this is a prophet, right, who has a dream and the dreams come true, right? If the prophet has dreams and the dream, this is an actual law. If the prophet, if there comes a prophet to you and the prophet has dreams and the dreams come true, and that prophet tells you to go and serve other gods, meaning go and serve other people or other entities, statues, right? It says, do not follow him. God is testing your loyalty to law. You should to continue to follow all God's commandments and put the prophet to death. So that negates you ever accepting a prophet that tells you to live outside of the law, period. Now, you got to think about this. This preceded Jesus by hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of years. This law preceded Jesus. And this is the law that Jesus preached. And the law says verbatim, if there's a prophet that has dreams and the dreams come true, meaning what he prophesied to you came true, and he tells you to go off and serve other gods, meaning go break from God's law and go do other things, it tells you do not follow him. God is testing your loyalty to law. It tells you you should continue following all God's commandments and put the prophet to death. Now, I'm not saying that Jesus should be put to death, because I read the New Testament and everything that Jesus said was within the law, and he was promoting people to follow the law and warning them that they were outside of the law. Right? But if there was somebody outside of Jesus, any other prophet who people follow and make a religion for, and they have other rules, it tells you if he has any other rules outside of God, you following another God, and you need to continue to follow God's commandments and put that person to death. So that right there negates you ever having and accepting a prophet that tells you not to follow the law, period, of all time. Like if you believe that the law would rule the earth at one point in time, and you have accepted that someone came along and told you not to follow it, this law right here negates that ever happening, period. And I'm not getting too animated. I just put my hands down. I hit the book on accident. But that negates that, period, right? Because you, at the end of the day, if you are a reasonable person and you say at one point in time this law was valid, and you go back in time to that time and you say, okay, what broke me outside of this law? You say a prophet came and told me that I don't have to do it anymore. There is literally a law that says if a prophet comes in, even if what he says comes true, if he told you the sun was going to blow up and the sun blew up, And then after that, or before that, he tells you, you have another God now who you can pray to. You don't have to follow the law anymore. You're free from that. It tells you God is testing you, and you need to continue to follow the law and put that person to death. Now, that is not what happened to Jesus. What happened to Jesus was fulfilling the prophecy. Like I said before, there was a prophecy that people would come who were spotless lambs, meaning they were following the law, and at their own, and they will warn their people, and their own people will turn against them and kill them. And that is exactly what happened to Jesus. People want to blame Italy and whoever else, right? Because Caesar was the emperor or king at that time, whatever you want to call it, right? They had dominion over Israel at the time. Israel was one of their territories that they had conquered or had control over, right? They want to blame those other people for the death of Jesus, but no, nobody was responsible for the death of Jesus except for Israelites, period. If you go back, you people who are Bible thumpers and claim y'all read the Bible and know everything, then you should remember that when Jesus was put in jail, and even after he went through all those beatings and whatever else, he was still alive. He had not been killed that first time. He didn't get killed until, I forget the guy's name, came out and said, all right, I can't say that Jesus did anything wrong, so I don't want to kill him, because that even this guy knows the law in his heart. He like, yo, I can't just kill Jesus for no reason. I'm gonna die right after, right? Because he knows he's bringing bad energy to himself. He's saying, I can't just kill this guy because he's popular and people are following him. So he removed any blame from himself, and he put up this guy. I think his name was Barnabas. I don't know what the guy's name. I'm not going to say. I think his name was Barnabas, right? You can go and look for yourself. The guy was a thief, modern day criminal, right? He was like a Robin Hood or a modern day, whatever, famous criminal rapper. I mean, most rappers ain't criminals, but they portray themselves to be criminals, right? And people are fans of them, right? So he was a modern day whatever, right? And they said, and he asked the people, all right, look, I'll give y'all a choice. What do y'all want to do? Do y'all want to free Barnabas or do y'all want to free Jesus? Right? Do y'all want to free the criminal or do you want to free the man who's preaching and telling you the law, trying to save all y'all lives from the pit? Right? And they chose Barnabas. That's what happened. So nobody killed Jesus except for the Israelites, the people who y'all claim. A lot of these people, the Hebrew Israelites and people like that who they claim to be, you all claim to be Israelites. You killed Jesus. if that's what you claim, you killed it. And in the Bible, it tells you, in the Old Testament, even in the prophecies, it says God declared that Israel was the worst people on the face of the earth, an embarrassment. Compared it to a whore. He says a loose whore. That's what he's called Israel. So for all you people, you different groups out there, whether you be Jewish or a Hebrew Israelite, stop claiming to be an Israelite. That's not a one-up. God declared them to be the worst people on the face of the earth and rejected them from being his people. He said, they broke my covenant. Now I'm expanding my covenant to the rest of the world after this prophecy is fulfilled, which, Jesus and many before and after came and warned these people, and they never listened. So he declared them because he gave them his presence directly, right? I gave you all my presence and I gave you all my law written in black and white, or whatever color it might have been. It might have been tan and whatever at the time, right? Because he's writing on some different stuff. And you all disobeyed it. You all had advantages that nobody else had, because you got to think about it. That's the worst child. At the end of the day, there are children out here, whether it be, a bastard child who doesn't have a father, right? He never had the instruction of his father, so he might go off and do something wrong based on ignorance, right? Or you might have people with bad parents who were not, somebody who was born into a country that does not follow God, right? The God that delivered the law to Moses, right? The God that created the universe. They might have different gods, whether they be idols or, from Egypt. Egypt has all different types of gods and things like that. And I talked about Japan and a lot of these Muslim countries. They had different gods, right? And people are born under that, right? So their father, the father that they were given, their spiritual father, was not the true God, right? So they have some leeway, and they can't be held 100% accountable like a person who had a direct line to God, and God handed his laws and instructions to have dominion and control over the earth for the rest of time, right? That person cannot be held as accountable as an Israelite. So he at that point, because God is a fair God, right? Just because these were his people at one point in time, they don't get any favor. I have to declare you, after hundreds and hundreds of years of observations, after pulling you out of the mud because you was a slave and I freed you. You was a slave. You had no way out. You was, every man of your family was slated for murder, right? And this is after I made my covenant with Abraham, right? Just to show you that I am the true God. I put you in bondage and you were slighted to be killed. You had a master who you could never defeat. And I used my miracles to bring you out of there to show you this is real, bro. This isn't some crackpot, something that was said to Abraham a long time ago. Then you get a kingdom and you can say this kingdom was built because my people were great and we're strong and we're better than everybody else. Nah, we were under people who was better than us. If any of y'all have been to Egypt, and I strongly advise that you go to see this place, right? Egypt is the oldest mega city on the planet. This place is like New York, but built 10,000 years ago. I'm telling you, every modern day big city on this planet is modeled after Egypt, right? And I'm not telling you my opinion. I've been there. I've been to Cairo myself and seen it. This place is amazing. I'm talking millions of people. This is a huge place. You think this is just some smart? This is a huge mega city that's been there since before any of these books and any of these libraries in modern government was written. Even if you look at the stuff in China, it's older than that. It's way over, to 10,000 years old. This place is still there, still going with the same people. A lot of them look like the people in America. A lot of them look South American, Mexican. A lot of them, you could tell that at one point in time, they was roaming the earth. Period. This is the oldest one we know of. Period. And that's where God put his people. He put his people under them. And then he turned the Pharaoh again. Even though they did many great things for the Pharaoh, you got to think. They went into bondage. He did many great things for the Pharaoh. They helped the Pharaoh save for famine. They helped it, and he even made them great under Pharaoh. Remember, they was rich. They was getting it under the Pharaoh. They was peaceful at one point in time because they saved Pharaoh from famine. They had Pharaoh, they helped Pharaoh know that he needed to get his stocks and reserves up for the famine. And when the famine came, Pharaoh got rich. And then I think it was, I don't know, was it Israel or Josh? I forget. It was Joshua, something like that. I forget. Because I'm not, like I told you, I'm not a preacher. I'm not going to go back and, hit y'all with a whole bunch of scripture and all that, right? But they was popping under Pharaoh, right? Pharaoh was making a lot of money because of them, because people had to come during the famine to Pharaoh to get food, because Pharaoh was the only one with these stocks, right? With these silos of food, right? And he was able to sell that for top dollar at the time. Made the kingdom very rich. And then time goes on, and Pharaoh, they so tight with Pharaoh that they get their own little provinces in Egypt. But then a new regime comes in, a new Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh says, man, look, them Israelites, they good people and all, but they getting a little too strong out here. They got control over this land over here, control over this land over here. And he was like, look, my dad and my grandfathers, they liked them, but all I see is a growing problem. They might revolt over us and take our kingdom. We need to start killing them. And that's what they did. Israel, for no good reason. Well, I mean, that was his reason, right? They were slated for execution, and they were systematically killing all the men of Israel, working them to death, and executing the newborn, the men. Right? Their society was their bloodline was slated for destruction by the most powerful kingdom on the earth at the time, right? Or the most powerful kingdom that we know of on earth at the time, right? Or that I know of, right? You might know a better one, but from what I've seen, from my history, from me going to see that place, I have not seen an older city that has stood the test of time than Egypt. And if you go see them pyramids and how big those pyramids are, I first off, but whether we talk about old structure or new, I've never seen nothing like that in my life. I've never seen a greater feat overcome by man in my life. That's a real life mountain. It's the size of a mountain built by human beings thousands of years ago. These people were great, right? So we could say arguably the most powerful, long-lasting kingdom of all time. They were slated to death by earth. If you didn't believe in God, these were the people who you would believe are gods, right? Because they are creating the most impossible things that man cannot comprehend, period, 7,000 years ago. So you can imagine what people thought of them back then. Because if I went there in 2022 I went there at the end of 2022, right, around New Year's. I was 32 years old. I had never seen nothing like that in my life. It was scary up standing next to it. I was thinking to myself, because not even to be, I'm not even an Egyptian hater or anything like that. I'm not a fan or a hater, but I was just standing next to it. I was like, yo, there's no way a man built this, period. Like, it's that big, and it was built thousands of years ago and has been there for thousands of years. Think about that. The Eiffel Tower, if we left it there, that joint would have rolled and crumbled in a couple hundred years. That pyramid's been there for thousands of years and has gone through earthquake. They don't even take care of it. You can see that rocks have fallen from earthquakes over the centuries and things like that. But it's just still there because it's that well constructed, and it's the size of a mountain, literally made out of these granite blocks, huge. They did that. So if you did not believe in God at the time and you was under the thumb of these people, these people built the pyramids. It wasn't no way out of that. If they slated you for death, you was going to die. And what happened? God took Moses, a man who he was in the uppers in that kingdom, right? His mother was Egyptian royalty. He killed a man, had to run. Went into the wilderness, didn't have nothing. God told him, hey, man, go back and free my people. He ain't have nothing. Think about it. Moses was up against arguably the most powerful kingdom of all time. And he went back and was like, look, I don't know. Think about that. Think about how crazy that is. He went back by himself. He had his brother with him, but he didn't have a kingdom behind him. When I say by himself, that's what I mean, right? And he went there and he freed his people, right? Based on God. Nothing but miracles. If you go back and you read, it's nothing but miracles he performed by God. Stuff he couldn't do by himself. Which let the people know this is real. God really freed us. There was nothing else that could have got us out of that situation. This is arguably the most powerful kingdom of our time and of all time, right? Those people went and turned against God's law. And God sent them a spotless lamb called Jesus to tell them to follow the law, and they still wouldn't do it. They killed him. At that point in time, it was prophesied that, yes, God will declare you the most corrupt whore of a people of all time. This is where you modern day people go wrong. You Hebrew Israelites. The Israelites was black. What are you talking about? First off, if you read the Bible and you believe in the Bible, it tells you that the Israelites was scattered all around the planet. They've been mating and having sex and been in bondage with everybody. So they blended with everybody, period. And they don't know who they are. So if you claim you know who you are and you lying. Or you don't believe in the Bible. And you said, well, yeah, I know this. I can trace my roots back. Because it says in the prophecy, if that's what you believe in, it says it spreads to the four corners of the earth and they won't know who they are, period. So you can't claim you know that you are Israelite. Don't even make any sense. These people were spread across the world old hundreds and hundreds of years ago, put in bondage. So that means they was breeding with whoever was there, right? That means they blended in everywhere. That means you can't claim you the only one. They all in America. No. It's just us black. No, dog. If you read the book, that don't even make any sense. Except the four corners of the earth. That means every side of the planet. So you can't be the only one. Same thing goes for Jewish people. Anybody who's claiming That, and not all Jewish people claim, because there are Jewish people who read the law. They claim to be Jewish, right? I follow the law. Jewish is a lifestyle, like me and vegan, not something I could be born into, right? I'm not there. A lot of them are claiming to be Israelites. But the ones who are claiming to be Israelites and these Hebrew Israelites, a lot of these brown American groups claiming to be Israel, that don't make any sense, bro. And even if you that doesn't give you any, that doesn't make you better. If you claim to be an Israelite, they were declared by God to be the worst horrible people on the face of the earth. So you would be better off claiming to be anybody else aside from these people. You better off just claiming to be Jewish and follow the law, period. That's a whole nother discussion. We'll get to that. But this is what they turned against. These are the worst people on the face of the earth, right? So if you are a Christian and you believe that a prophet that was sent to you by God told you not to follow the law, and you don't follow the law, by what I just told you, Law 475, and if the count is off by now, you can go. It's Deuteronomy 13, 1-5. It tells you, if a prophet comes, and even if he tells you that the sky is going to turn green and it turns green, and in the same breath he tells you not to follow the law, and you got a different guy now, it tells you not only to not listen to him and continue to follow the law, it tells you to kill him. So with that being said, with that being the law at one point in time that was given to you by your God to Moses, how could someone come and tell you not to follow the law? Doesn't make any sense. You're just making that up. And that is why, Christian folks, you need to follow the law. You are your prophet who is the mascot of your religion, was a perfect preacher of the law, who was telling you to follow the law. So you definitely should be following it, right? And then aside from that, even if you use your mascot, when I say mascot, I'm talking about Jesus, not disrespectfully. I'm saying it in a way that, we all human beings, right? So it's not disrespectful or anything like that. And you're not supposed to be disrespectful to your other human beings and things like that as far as law goes, right? But I mean it in a way that, because the Christian church touts Jesus as a mascot, right? And they use him as the freer they use a man who lived the law and preached the law perfectly as a mascot to tell you not to follow the law, which is crazy in itself, the fact that somebody could concoct that and do that, right? But if you are you're supposed to be following the law. If you are a Christian and you claim you are living according to you want to live life and be like Jesus, which is what all Christians say, right? If that's really what you claim and you really mean that, then take a look. Jesus was a Jew, so that means you should be Jewish. Jesus went and studied and learned every bit of the law at age 13, which means if you living like that Jesus, that's what you should do, right? I mean, it took me twice as long, literally. Jesus went at 13. I went at 27. It literally took me twice as long, right? But if you claim you want to be like Jesus and you raising your kids like Jesus, then you need to be sending your son to follow the law and study the law at 13. If you claim that you really want to be like Jesus and you living like Jesus, then by age 33, you should be able to go and tell your brothers, and you should be so in tune with the universe that you should know and see what the planet is doing wrong and how people are killing the planet by not following the law. And you should be able to speak, and your sons and daughters should be able to speak and help correct their brothers and sisters to help them bring them back to law. If you really want to be like Jesus, because that's what Jesus was doing. Period. If not, and you claiming something else, you have another God. You don't believe in God. Period. So stop false claiming. Stop being confusing people. You're only marking yourself for death. But if you really are self-reflective and you really may have been misled and you wanted to be a part of a group of people, take a second look at that, man, and make it make sense. And that's what Christianity really boils down to, under and outside of law, right? That's what it all boils down to. One, There is a law for all of those who claim that some prophet came and told them that they don't have to follow the law anymore. There is literally a law. If you was under law at one point in time and you said there was a time where it was valid and you said it was made invalid by another human being coming and telling you that you do not have to follow the law, who was a prophet of God, it literally tells you, Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 1 through 5, it tells you if there was a prophet that dreams a dream and the dream comes true, meaning if he told you an asteroid was going to hit, the Statue of Liberty, and it hit the Statue of Liberty, and he tells you at the same time to go serve other guys, meaning you don't have to follow the law anymore. It tells you don't listen to him. That's a test from God, and you need to follow the law and put him to death. So one, that negates anyone ever saying that, period, because there's a law for that. Two, if you say, well, we developed back in the day, we were Neanderthals and animals, and now we don't need that anymore. It tells you don't dare live a life outside of the law. And it tells you that these statues are to remain forever throughout all the generations throughout all your generations. So that's forever, to the end of time, to the end of your time, which means the end of your people, the end of your lineage. You are supposed to be following this, right? So that negates that argument. And if your other argument is Jesus was God in the flesh and he came and told us we don't have to follow the law, he freed us by fulfilling the law. If you claim as a Christian that you want to live life like Jesus and you being like Jesus, who was a Jew, went and studied the law at 13 and preached it till his death, then that means you should, if you claim you trying to be like him, that means that's what you should be doing, period. Doesn't make any sense. So that really wraps up God, the law versus the Christian church, period. Based on those points, there's no way that you could ever say that you don't have to follow the law based on those points. And if you can find one, don't hit me with the little sayings and parables that you don't understand because you never read the Old Testament. If you hit me with something from the New Testament and you don't know the law, don't even bother sending me to it, because you don't understand what the New Testament is saying. If you don't know the law, the New Testament is the New Testament is basically like somebody rapping the Constitution for you, right? If a rapper came to you and he was like, yo, I'm gonna rap the Constitution for you, based on every like if you listen to and decipher every bar I give to you about the Constitution and you run it back in your head, then you know that I hit every rule in the Constitution. That's basically what the New Testament is. It's a rapper coming, because you gotta think he was the orator. Right? This is how people learn things back then. This is how information traveled back then, by word of mouth, by an orator who went and spoke to masses of people. Everybody wasn't buying books, and books wasn't being printed like that. You know what I'm saying? There was no printing press out here mass producing books like that yet. Right? Those are very expensive, hard to come by commodities or valuables at the time, right? Then you say, look, this is a rapper who came and rapped the law to me. If you don't know the law, what are you verifying it against? If you don't know the Constitution and somebody comes and raps a bunch of bars to you about the Constitution, you don't know what he's rapping about because you ain't never read the Constitution. So even if he put together a hot line, was like, boy, you was like, oh, like where everybody's like, oh yeah, you don't know what it's about because you never read the Constitution. So you can't say, oh, you just a energy rider. You just oohing and ahhing with the crowd. You don't know what he's talking about. If he say a hot line about the 13th Amendment, or if he say a hot line about the Second Amendment, talking about your gun rights and all that, if he say a hot line like, oh, you can't take this, da 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 da, and you go ooh with the crowd, how did you go ooh? You don't know the Second Amendment. You don't know that means to bear arms because you never read the Constitution. That's like you watching videos from a whole bunch of, you know what I'm saying? You watch videos or you read the news about a whole bunch of ATF and people supporting gun rights, and you like, yeah, they like, yeah, support you, but you never read the Constitution before. You don't even know what the Second Amendment is. So how you on and on? It's the same principle. If a dude came, started rapping to you about the law and you never read it, and he tells you, oh, you can eat whatever you want, you like, oh yeah, he told you can eat whatever you want. Boom, they say, oh, why is that a hot line? You say, because that's a new law. We used to have to, eat beef and whatever else, you can't. We couldn't eat pork before. Now we can eat pork. No, bro, you never read the law before. The law already tells you if you're not in the tabernacle, you can eat whatever you want. That's why it's a hotline, because it's inside the law. You don't know that though, so you need to go back and read it. Period. Have a good one. I'll see you in a week. Oh, and just to let you know, these episodes will be coming out weekly, every Friday at 5 p.m. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.